Okay, well it's 10:30. Welcome everyone to the Melbourne Career Expo 2023, and you're here for this session on the top 10 tools for job seekers. My name is Sue Nelson. This is being recorded, but only this part, so you won't be in the filming. So there'll also be a copy of the slides, so if you'd like to take that with a strip of paper on the front desk there, I can send that out to you. And there's also a little bit in the background. So I'm a professional member of the Career Development Association of Australia. My career started 6 days after my last year 12 exam at Westpac in Adelaide, where I worked for 11 years before I moved to Melbourne. So I've been here since 1994, and I proudly boast I haven't had a real job since. So I've done lots of different things over all that time, and I'm still here to tell the story. I'm a member of lots of professional associations, and I've also done a huge amount of voluntary work, which I believe is a really key component of working and living in Australia. So definitely encourage you to do that. So there will be time for questions. If you've got a question during the presentation, feel free to let me know as well. But the number one thing that we really need to do is have a good quality resume and LinkedIn profile. And obviously, the detail that you go into for a resume is aligned with the job, and the detail on your LinkedIn profile is everything else. So if you want to go back and print out something from the past, you've got all that on your LinkedIn profile. Now, the reason the LinkedIn profile is got more information is there's more space on it, but also it can tell more of the story, because a lot of the time people have got no other information to go on, and if the keywords are in the LinkedIn profile, then you've got that chance to be found in search results. Because up to 95% of jobs are actually never even advertised. So if you've got the LinkedIn profile there and the recruiter or the decision maker is looking for someone, then you're more likely to appear in the search results. So when you put this record down, I suggest for every previous job you put in your achievements, your tasks, and a description of the organisation, as well as for your university studies, and obviously go through and put in your subjects you've completed. Even if you didn't finish a course, you can still mention the subjects you've completed, and that helps to end up on the alumni system. Now, the other thing is a resume needs to be applicant tracking system friendly. Now, I know if you go onto a website like Canva, they produce beautiful looking resumes. They're good if you want to hand it over to someone, but they're not so good if they're going into an applicant tracking system, because the computers can't read all those graphics and colours and so on. So much better if you like a Word document that's just got bold and plain text. Much easier for the applicant tracking systems to recommend. And also, if you've got a profile on Seek, I actually went in and created one there. It took me ages, almost as long as my LinkedIn profile. But the beautiful thing there is, again, employers can use that as a search tool as well. So there's plenty of others that I'll go on. So the next thing is, before you go for a job, you need to know what you're looking for. And ideally it's something you know what you're going for, because that makes it a lot easier to target on. But if you're not sure about where you want to go, then think about the values you have, so what's important to you, but also the value you can provide to an employer. Your strengths, those that you're naturally good at. Like, I'm really good at accounting, but I hate it. So, I don't want an accounting job, but I've acquired a lot of skills. And I go to between 1 and 4 events every week since I finished my degree. So definitely a lot of information that I've picked up over time. And in your context, so if you've got particularly challenging personal circumstances at the moment, you've got to pay the bills, or your expenses have increased, or you don't have childcare, which I didn't have available to me, then that affects your choices. So you just say, all right, I'll have a job for now until my circumstances change and I can go on. So on all of these slides, there is links to further information if you would like to dive deeper into that. So when I moved to Melbourne and I thought about what I'd like to do in the future, I read all these books, and I read books for about 3 years. Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow, Find Your Purpose in Life, What Colour Is My Parachute, all these different books. And after the end of 3 years, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So what I did was I created this mind map. And the beautiful thing is, it's a values-based mind map. And they tell me now that all the Gen Ys and Gen Zs, they all make decisions based on their values. So I guess I was a little bit ahead of my time. But what I did is, in the middle, I wrote down the things that were absolutely critical. These were my non-negotiables. I had to have this in my future role. And then what I did is a brain dump of everything I'd done and everything I thought I would possibly be interested in without any editing whatsoever. And then the next day I came back, and as you can see, I've got the highlighter pen, and I circled the things that were most important. So then if somebody said to me, Sue, would you like to work in remote Australia, driving a truck, be away from your family, 2 weeks out of every 3, I'd say, no thanks, because it didn't meet my minimum requirements and gave me a decision-making framework. And what I found really helpful about this process was that it wasn't based on an assessment or somebody else's view. It was all based on what was important to me. So I found this process very helpful, and if you want to do it yourself, you can just follow that link, and it goes into more details there. So the third thing is, as I said before, up to 75% of jobs are never even advertised. So with that in mind, if you think about the best ways to get work, I believe they are through networking, referrals, and voluntary work. So voluntary work, if you don't have any experience, networking is you meet people and then you get referrals to somebody else. So that way you bypass the 300 other people applying for the same job. So it can be much more helpful. So from now on, if you've got the LinkedIn app on your phone, you can connect with everyone you meet on LinkedIn. Your parents, professionals, peers, friends, work colleagues, past work colleagues, people you studied with, alumni from any colleges or universities you've been to. And I also encourage you to be a member of a professional association. If you're not sure what a professional association is for your industry, you can go to the myfuture.edu.au website, and on there it will list the professions associations for those jobs. And also you can go next door and speak to the Career Development Association member and get some professional career assistance, because most of us are taught how to do a job, we're not taught how to find a job, and those are two very different skill sets. So you could be the perfect candidate for a job, but if you don't have the right job search skills, you can miss out on that opportunity. And there's, again, another couple of articles there for you to check out. So I've already said My Future is a great website. It also has a free careers quiz. So if you do want to do a little assessment, you don't want to do the mind map and think about your feelings and so on, you can go in and just answer a bunch of questions and give you some tips. And it also gives you a job description for every job. Now the benefit of knowing the job description is you can see the words that people are looking for when they see those jobs. The Victorian Government has a Finding a Job guide that you can run through, and these are all free, by the way, and also Jobs Victoria Career Counselling. Now, I did hear that there was a funding cut to this service, so I don't know how much career counselling is still available, so I encourage you to visit the third website there quickly and get in whilst it's still operating. Then, of course, you can also find a career development professional, again through the CDA store. But all of us specialise in particular areas. So I probably specialise mostly in career changes and mid-career people, people who are new to Australia, people returning to Australia, and obviously I specialise in LinkedIn as well. But you can also get help through employee assistance programs. So a lot of employers offer extra counselling and support services through employee assistance programs. And if you do get retrenched, you can quite often qualify for outplacement services. So if you do qualify for that, I encourage you to go along, even if you don't think you need it. That can be very helpful as well. And then recruiters. So if you're looking for a recruiter, look for someone who's been in the role at least 3 years and who specialises in the jobs in your area. So if you're an IT professional, you don't just go to a random recruiter, you go to a recruiter who specialises in IT jobs. Because those who've been in the industry for more than 3 years, they usually have a little talent pool, so whenever a job becomes available, they tap into their own little pool of candidates. So it's a good idea to find those. But remember, the recruiter is working on behalf of the employer, not on behalf of you as the candidate. That's who they get paid by. So you can't expect to go there and get a whole bunch of free advice from the recruiter, because they're only going to get paid if you go into the job and stay there 3 months. So just keep that in mind. Also, a lot of education providers have career services. So when I went to uni, there was a career services department. I could go there and get advice from them. course, they're slightly biased to selling you another course to go to rather than necessarily career advice. So just keep that in mind. But you might find some additional resources in those. As well as if you're an alumni of a university or college, then you can sometimes get services as well. And also be very discerning with the advice you've got from well-meaning friends and family. So they might say, well, you should do what I'm doing, because they've already validated that for themselves. So when I chose the path of not having a real job, that was very much against my family's belief that I should have a real job. So, that was quite a challenge in itself. The next thing is to update your skills. Now, many of us are literate in an area, but not necessarily competent in an area. So the way to maintain our competency is to keep learning, which is why I go to so many events. And what I love is you don't have to go out and do a PhD and change your life for the next 3 years. You can actually just do micro credentials. And one of the ways you can do that is through LinkedIn Learning. So if you go to your local library and you get a library card, you can then sign into LinkedIn and you can do these little short courses for free. And then they will even add them to your LinkedIn profile once you've completed them. And there's a huge range of courses. Now they are very American, I'll warn you of that, but they are very well structured and it looks good to have done something recently. And I'd like you to really think about not just a technical competency, like, I need to learn more about artificial intelligence, for example. But I'd like you to think about soft skills as well. How to be more assertive, how to develop your leadership skills. Some of those courses can be really helpful as well. Also, if you can get some work experience, and I mean in an area that's related to where you want to go, people get to see you. So when I was not working for a while, I contacted all the local businesses and I just said, I'm happy to come and help for a special rate for the first 20 hours. So they didn't have to employ me because I had my own Australian business number, but they could just get me in and let me do some work for a while and we could see if it worked for both of us. So that was another great way to get work experience. Some older workers find that their qualifications and experience is really high, but the available jobs, the pay is really low. And so they find that they don't qualify for any jobs because of their experience. So another way to do it is, well, what about if I do 2 days a week here and 3 days a week somewhere else? Then maybe a combination of 2 jobs will end up being the equivalent of 1 job and you'll sort of pay what you're worth. And also, sometimes we're bitter and twisted about what's happened to us. So after I moved to Melbourne, the reason why I haven't had a real job since is I did get a job when I first moved to Melbourne, but they sacked me when I was pregnant. And I was angry about that for about 6.5 years until I found a way to resolve my issue. But nevertheless, it took me on a great journey. I'm not denying that, but at the time I was really angry. So if you go into a job interview desperate for the job, people can sense that and you kind of won't get it. If you go in with the attitude that this job has to be a good fit for me and a good fit for you as the employer, then you've got a much better chance of making a match there. And again, I've got some other articles you can look up. So another tool that I think is really important in the job search is courage. And a lot of women in particular will not apply for a job unless they have 100% of the skills listed on the advertisement. So that's, a bit of a shame really, because other people will apply for the job when they've only got 60% of the skills, and some people will apply when they've got 0% of the skills, and they're from a foreign country and don't have a work visa, so that's even more annoying. So I encourage you to do anything that is difficult but not dangerous, something that might be outside your comfort zone, and to also celebrate your achievements. So you might think, well, I haven't really done much. Yeah, you worked somewhere for 5 years and you changed all their systems and you got an Employee of the Month award. They're all achievements. Anything that you did really, really well or anything you did over and above what you originally employed for is an achievement. And also, it's very easy if you're looking for work and it's been taking a while to sort of give yourself a bad reputation and get down on things. And so I'd suggest that you say, look, no regrets, it is what happened. I've had some people who've done shonky things and they've paid financial penalties, they've paid criminal penalties, one's been to jail, and I worked with him coming out of jail. But he just said, from now on, this is what I'm going to do. So please don't think it's the end of the world. It never is. So just keep going. Now, one of the reasons I love voluntary work is you get to meet people, so you network, which is really fantastic. But also, it gets you out of the house and doing something new. So this one particular person I was working with recently, he did some chunky things, and he's now at home, and his wife was ill, and he really doesn't know what to do every day. And I said, why don't you just go to the library every day instead of just staying at home? You're going to have to get up, get dressed, have a shave, do all those things, and we'll get him out of the house and just getting into a new routine. Because he was used to working full time for 28 years. So, for the same employer. So it's a really big adjustment to go from all of that to nothing. So you've got to do something to get out of the house. I also recommend that you spend 2 hours a day, 5 days a week looking for work, and the rest of the time go to the beach, go for a walk, go to a coffee shop, do whatever you like. But you can't spend 8 hours a day looking for a job. It just go nuts. But if you don't spend 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, you can actually lose a lot of ground by, just thinking, I'll do it all on Friday, and Friday comes and you've done nothing for the whole week. So much better to do it for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Keep meeting people, keep getting new skills, and keep asking for information or referrals. So don't just bring up, say, give me a job, say, can you introduce me to somebody who might be looking for someone with my skills? Then you get a referral, you speak to them, and that can work really well. And make sure you add those achievements both to your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Because a lot of us decision makers and recruiters, we will look at it and say, well, if they did that in the past, there's a pretty good chance they'll be able to do that again in the future. So that's why we write those achievements up. It is not bragging. It's not saying, oh, look at me, look at me. It's just saying, this is what I did. So if you said, I was the best employee that company ever had, that's probably bragging. But if you said, whilst I was there, I did A, B, C, D, and E, you would say, great, that's fantastic. Pretty good chance you'll be able to do that again. The next one is to be really persistent. Now, I did say don't ring up and ask people for a job, but when my son was 13, which is under the legal age to work in Australia, he just rang organisations until someone gave him a job. So, it was really interesting because they would say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't offer you a job. And he said, that's okay, have a nice day, bye. And he'd call the next person. I've got a lot more courage and persistence than I have. But sure enough, he did get a job, and it was playing games with old people in nursing homes. So very unusual, I know, for a 13-year-old boy to wanting to do that. But he did get work just by making phone calls. So one of the things I suggest if you're really desperate looking for work, just walk the streets of your local area. You'll see signs in shop windows, we're looking for staff. It's a really great way just to get out there. Think about how you can improve where you are now, either personally or professionally. You can have that job for now if it's your circumstances. There's stories of incredible artists who worked at McDonald's because they could work at McDonald's during the day and do gigs all night. So, if that's what it takes to fulfill their dream, that's what they did. There's also, can you fix another aspect of your life? Sometimes now, because people don't necessarily have a faith and they don't participate in sport and they don't do all of the things that we used to do 20 plus years ago, they expect all their needs to be met in the workplace. And that's a little bit unrealistic because obviously all our needs cannot be met at work or in a relationship or in any one thing. So have a look at those other aspects. Maybe it's time for some counselling. I've been through loads of counselling myself. Further education or training might give you a start. So another one of my clients, she had lived and worked in New York City in public relations. Like, you can't get much more high profile than that. And then she comes to Melbourne to live. Not quite the same as New York. And she was finding it difficult to settle here. And she wanted to stay because she had a husband and 2 children and she loved the lifestyle. She didn't want to take her kids back to New York to live. So what she did was she found a course in graphic design, which is something she always wanted to do. And she met lots of other like-minded people on the graphic design course, and then she was good to go. So that really worked for her. So sometimes an extra course can be really helpful. And also, can you add more fun in your life? Like, we seem to have got very serious nowadays, whereas I remember back in the 80s, if you things are a lot more relaxed and a lot more fun. Maybe it's our devices, we're so glued to our phones. And also that narrows our vision because we're just looking at a small screen instead of everything out there. But yeah, there's definitely ways to make it more fun. You can also start small. So some people say, yeah, but I want to change my life and it's terrible and I don't know what to do. And I say, all right, well, if you're going to change from one field to something completely different, you're going to have to allow some time. I say, are you ready for me to tell you how long it's going to take? And of course, they're thinking 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, something like that. And I tell them, sorry, 2 years is about what it's going to take, all right? So when you set a goal for 2 years, it's much more realistic. If you set a goal for 2 days and it doesn't happen, you're going to beat yourself up. So I really encourage you to, if you're going to go on this massive change, allocate 2 years to the process and you've got a much better chance of making it happen. Another thing that I've been extremely good at, probably too good at, is managing my money because I'm an ex-banker. So I live very, very frugally, and it means that I get a lot more flexibility in my lifestyle. But not everybody's up for that. Some people just want the cash and then you to spend the money. But maybe there's a way you can manage your finances more effectively. So another client, he had met up with this amazing entrepreneur who'd been travelling the world, who'd been earning a bucket load of money, and then he got burnt out and he decided he would come and live in Melbourne. And he thought he would need another $300,000 plus job per year to survive, in his current sort of way of thinking. And I said to him, well, you could go for that, but there's lots of other things to do in Melbourne apart from just work. And he looked at me really strange because all he had in mind was this idea of getting another $300,000 a job. And I kid you not, within 3 months, he decided that spending time with his family is much more important, and he would set up his own business, and he was earning not much money at all, but he was really, really happy. So sometimes it takes us to rethink about what's important to us and consider that as well, and juggle the money differently. Then he realised he could use his shares and his other portfolios and he could fund himself, and still pay the bills for a lot longer. There's other ways to manage things. Reflect on what's really important to you in life. Now, racism, ageism, experience level, what people said to you, oh, you'll never be this, like my family calls me the academic, the quick things, all because I left a course that was terrible, so they defined me as this person who would quit. Well, I've gone on, I've completed a degree, and I've done all these other learnings, but that's not who I am. That's one thing they said to me. So it's very difficult if you've got that thought in the back of your mind to move beyond that. So think about that. And believe it or not, I have faced racism as a white Anglo Australian from Adelaide. I couldn't make friends for the first year I came here, and I thought, what's wrong with me? How can it be? I've been to multicultural events where everybody else is speaking another language and they won't speak English, and I'm thinking, I'm Australian and I speak English, why can't you speak English to me? So yeah, I've faced it as well, believe it or not. Also because I'm a woman of a certain age, I have to convince people that I still have something to offer. So if they don't want to employ me, I say, bad luck, I'll go to somebody who does. And I found that if you're a little bit older, look for people who are 10 years older or younger than you. Because I remember when I was in recruitment for Westpac in my 20s, anybody over 30 was ancient. So I remember being that young person. So I picked up a new client yesterday, she's 51 and she thinks I'm fabulous. So I'd much rather work with somebody like that than somebody else. Now, there are websites where you can log on and get temporary gigs like Airtasker or WePoint or something like that. Now, the problem with something like Airtasker, say you said, oh look, I can clean windows and I'll offer to clean windows. Well, it's a race to the bottom. So unless you're using that job to meet more people, it's probably not worth doing that type of work in the long term. I mean, it might be okay for short term. And there is a website called WePoint, and you can sign up for that and get temporary jobs. It's all done via an app. And they have a really rigorous process and they get you really good gigs. And I love the company. I'm not paid by them, but I love them. I've gone through their process. The process is good. It's a really great bunch of people. I think it's fantastic. So definitely give my investment. And the next thing is, you've rung up somebody and you've got a referral and they've passed you on to somebody, then you need to go back to them and tell them what happened. Because nothing's worse than getting a lead and then they never know what happened. And then you could have got an amazing job or opportunity as a result of it. So please go back and say thank you. Even when I missed out on jobs, I'd go back and say thank you for the opportunity, let me know if something else comes up. And I got a lot of referrals just by saying thank you, even when I missed out. Make sure you tell people what you found helpful. So don't just say thank you, you were fabulous. Say thank you, I really appreciate the fact you gave me 3 referrals, I was able to follow up on them, I got great feedback, just tell them very specifically. Listen to what people say to you, but choose what you will act on. So not everything everybody else says is worthwhile. You've got to say what's right for me and make your own decisions. And also consider the agenda. So as I said before, if you go to a career advisor who works in the university selling courses, what do you think you're going to be recommended? So make sure you're getting the advice that is for you. If it's a recruiter, what will they recommend? You go for this job where they get paid. Think, is there any other agenda going on? And regardless of all of that, there will be some people, no matter what stupid mistakes we do, they will always say, no worries, let's keep going. So make sure you acknowledge those people as well, the ones who stick by the way. So in summary, make sure you're doing records, your resume and LinkedIn profile. Be clear on what you're going for. Keep networking, so I encourage you to network with everyone you've met. Make sure you do some additional training, use up those additional resources, have courage, consider voluntary work, be persistent, start off small. Remember those full incremental changes, and in 2 years you can be exactly where you'd like to be, and make sure you say thank you. So if you would like a copy of these slides, you can scan that code, and what it will do is automatically generate an email that will come to me, and then I'll send you back a copy of this presentation. I'm doing another one this afternoon on being fabulous over 50, and I'm doing one on the main stage about using artificial intelligence for work. So I'll send you the slides to all of those. I will not be hounding you for anything else. The information is also on a little slip of paper on the front desk here. You can grab my business card. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm also happy to answer any quick questions that you've got as well. So if there's anything that you would like to ask either now or in the future, you're welcome to reach out to me. And I definitely encourage you to visit the senior stand next door, because there's lots of us professionals there who can help you out with some general information. So is there anybody game enough to ask a question in front of the group? There's bound to be somebody else who'd love to know the answer. You're smiling heavily there before. Question? No? Or anything that was particularly helpful from that presentation? Everything? Oh, excellent. I do make a lot of, I think about this a lot when I put these presentations together, to think if I've only got 30 minutes, what's the best I can tell you in that time? So I've done over 1,000 presentations. I now appear on Channel 9 as a career expert. I've been on Channel 9 10 times, believe it or not. I get nervous every time, but anyway, I still do it, because we've got to have courage and persistence, don't we? And I see it as my opportunity to educate, because a lot of people just go, okay, yeah, and their opinion, but I try and put in stats and facts and tips and try and put that in. So, yeah, more than happy to have a chat. Yeah. Number 1 is your records. Updating your LinkedIn, your resume and your CV right up to now. So I've got everything on my LinkedIn profile to when I first started work. Now the only thing I haven't included is I used to be a babysitter when I was 14. So I haven't included that, but every single other thing I have, because as I said, I'm 58 now. I don't care if you don't want to hire me because you think I'm too old, like, not my problem. I'll just go to somebody who does know me. So that's that one. And the second one is about having that really sharp focus on your values, strengths and abilities, so that you know where you like to go. Oh, thank you for showing up. That's 80% of success according to Woody Allen. Well done. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.